Okay guys, so let's start with casting. First of all, tell me what happens in casting. What happens in casting? Molten metal is poured into a mold. Very good. Liquid metal solidified in a mold cavity. Very good guys. That's the answer I wanted. Nitika is also telling the answer. Yeah, very good. So, in casting what we do is we take a molten metal, we pour that molten metal into the shape that we want to make, and then we allow it to solidify. When it solidifies, it will take up the shape that we want. Okay, so that entire process is called as casting process. If you have visited any metal plant, you would have seen that first production method of any component is casting. For example, I have seen a steel plant. In steel plant, what do they do is they'll take molten steel, they'll pour into some standard shapes. For example, rectangular shape, circular shape, they'll pour into that shape and then they will allow that to solidify. So we can say the first step of manufacturing is casting. Once the component has been casted, they will sell this component into the market, and in the market there will be different industries that are going to change the shape of the metal. Okay. Molten metal means liquid metal. Molten metal means obviously it is heated. Initially the metal is solid. When it is heated, it becomes liquid. So liquid metal is called as molten metal. So in any manufacturing, first we cast the component into some standard shape. Then those components are sold into the market. In the market, different industries will be there. Those industries will change the shape of the metal. For example, there are rolling mills, then we have forging mills, then we have extrusion. All these processes are used to change the shape of the metal. Okay, but first step will be casting. Now, do we do any form of casting in our homes? Idli, but idli is not the best example. One way it is right. Ice is an example of casting. Okay, all of you are in final years. You all know the importance of ice. Without ice, there is no party, right? So how do we make ice? Let's see how ice is made. We'll take a tray. Inside the tray, we'll pour water, and then we'll keep the tray inside a freezer. The freezer will remove heat from the water, right? And this ice will become solid. So after some time, this ice will become solid in this shape. So this is, in a way, a casting process. We poured water inside a tray. We kept the tray inside the freezer. We allowed the water to get solidified. It became ice. Okay. Then we'll remove the ice and we'll use the ice. Okay. So let's see how this is related to the casting process. So one side I have ice making, and on the other side I have casting. So instead of water, what we will have in casting? We'll have liquid molten metal. Molten metal itself is liquid. Okay, so there is no need to write liquid in that. Sunil, molten metal, very good. So here we will have molten metal. So here we are pouring the water inside a tray. Instead of tray, what we will have in the casting? We'll have the mold. Very good, Satish. And then after the casting, we get ice. In ice making, the final component that we get is ice. Here what we will get? Here we will get the casted component. That is also called as cast or casted product. Very good, Satish. Cast or casted component. Okay. So this is a basic introduction of casting. Okay. So let's directly look into casting. Let's directly look into casting. Few of you might have a doubt, sir, what is a mold, right? There is no problem if you have a doubt like that. I'll explain everything. Okay. Let us say you want to make a casted product of this shape. This is the shape of the casted product that you want to make. So for this, you need to have a cavity inside which you can pour the molten metal, which is having similar shape. The shape of the cavity should be similar to the component that you want to make, right? So first we'll have to make that cavity. That cavity is made inside something called as mold. Okay, so let's see. This is the shape of the component you want to make. So this is the shape that you should have on the cavity. So let's say we have a cavity of that particular shape. Okay, and outside the cavity we have sand. So this here you have made the cavity inside a sand. This is called as the mold and this is called as the cavity. But how are you going to pour the molten metal inside the cavity? For that you will have to make some passages, right? So that you can pour the molten metal and it can flow inside the cavity, right? So we'll make some passages here. Okay. From this passage we'll pour the molten metal. It will enter the cavity. From here we'll pour the molten metal. It will enter the cavity. We'll leave it for some time. It will solidify. And then we'll break the mold. And we'll get the casted component. Okay. So any doubt till now? If you have understood everything till now, please reply yes. Or otherwise post your doubt. Now your next doubt should be, sir, how do we make the mold? How do we make the cavity inside the mold? How do we make the mold and how do we make the cavity inside the mold? Right? And so this is just the starting. You have not missed anything. Okay? So how do we make a mold in the casting? What we do is we use something called as flask. Flask is nothing but a wooden boundary. Flask is nothing but a wooden boundary. Okay. Inside the flask, we'll keep a component which is having shape similar to the casted component. Does anyone know the name of this component? We are keeping a component which is having shape similar to the shape of the casted component. Does anyone know the name? Karan is saying pattern. Danish is saying pattern. Very good, guys. This is the pattern. We keep a component which is having shape similar to the final component that you want to make. So we have kept a pattern here. Now we'll start pouring the sand. Here. So we have poured the sand. Now what we'll do is we will invert the entire setup. So when we invert the entire setup, what we get is the pattern will come on the top. Here I missed the hand. Sorry. The pattern will come on the top. We have inverted the setup. The pattern has come on the top. Now we'll remove the pattern. So when we remove the pattern, what is left behind is a cavity. Okay. We have removed the pattern. Here, all we have is a cavity. Okay. Some of you might think, sir, the sand will start falling. The sand is tightly held. It does not easily fall here. some portion will fall, some small portion will fall, but not all the sand will fall because all this sand is very tightly held. Okay, we'll make a similar shape like this. We'll make a similar shape like this and we'll keep it on the top. We'll make a similar shape like this and we'll keep it on the top. Entire procedure will repeat. We'll make a similar shape and we'll keep it on the top. And inside this, there will be one cavity. So with this, we have made the entire mold. Now what we need to make is the passage for the flow of the molten metal. Okay, so now we will make the passage for the flow of the molten metal. So that passage is generally cut using some pipes. Okay, so here we have made the passage also. Okay, so this is how the entire mold is made. Okay, so here you can see I have used two flasks. Okay, so the top flask is called as scope and the bottom flask is called as the drag. The top flask is called as the scope, bottom flask is called as the drag. Okay, now let's have a look at the video. Along the video also I try to explain few things. So here they have taken one flask and inside the flask they have put a small cubical thing. That cubical thing is nothing but the pattern. Okay. Over the pattern he has sprinkled some white powder. You might have seen they have sprinkled some white powder. That white powder is called as parting sand. As I showed you that we try to remove the pattern. Right? We remove the pattern for making the cavity. So the purpose of parting sand is that the parting sand does not allow the pattern to stick to the sand. Right? That's why we use the parting sand. If we don't use the parting sand, there are chances that the pattern will stick to the molding sand, and when you remove the pattern, some portion of molding sand will come out with the pattern. That's why we use the white powder that is called as the parting sand. Now he is putting the sand inside the flask. He is pressing the sand so that the sand particles are tightly held. Okay. Now see, he is applying the load by using something that is looking like a hammer. Okay. This is called as the ramming force. R-A-M-M-I-N-G. The purpose of ramming force is to tightly hold the sands. Because of the ramming force, the sands will be tightly held. Now he is making the surface perfectly smooth. So he has used a similar box which he has kept on the top. If you look properly in the video, you can see in the top box scope is written and on the bottom box drag is written. See, you can see on the top box scope is written and in the bottom box drag is written. Right? So the top flask is called as the scope and the bottom flask is called as the drag. So he has put the sand inside the scope and drag portion. Now what he will do is he will try to remove the patterns. So first he is cutting the holes. I told you that we need to make some passages for pouring the molten metal. So he is cutting those passages as of now. See, he is removing the pattern now. Now he is even more cutting the passage. For cutting the passage, he has removed the sand. See, he will be taking lot of care so that no sand is left behind inside the cavity. If the sand is left inside the cavity, that sand will become a part of the casting and that will be a defect. Okay, so we don't want that to happen. That's why he is taking lot of care to remove the sand. Here you can see that there is a pin on one of the flask and there is a hole on the other flask. Can you see that? There is a pin on one of the flask and there is a hole on the other flask. The purpose of this pin and hole is proper alignment. Okay, so that the top flask is properly aligned to the bottom flask. Okay, The purpose of these pins is for the proper alignment. If they are not aligned properly, the cavity will not be aligned. If the cavity is not aligned, we will not get the desired shape in the casted component. Okay, that's why we use these holes. Now he is making air holes to prevent any air locking. Right, we need to give some space for the air to flow out. That's why he is making those holes. See, the pin and hole will be aligned here. So with this, they have made the complete mold. With this, they have made the complete mold. And on the top, they are making a funnel shaped portion. They are making a funnel shaped portion where they are going to pour the molten metal. Okay. What is the name of this funnel shaped portion? All this we'll see in the later part of the chapter. As of now, I am just giving you the introduction of the casting. Okay. All of these are individual steps that we are going to cover in the chapter. Overall, he has made 2 holes in the mold. One hole on which you can see the arrow as of now. The purpose of this hole is for the pouring of molten metal. And the other hole is called as the riser. The other hole is called as the riser. What is the purpose of riser? That also we'll see as we continue with the chapter. Okay. There's another small video. Please have a look on this. So this is complete process. In this, first they are melting a metal inside the furnace. What you are seeing on the screen as of now is a furnace. Inside this, they are melting the metal, and on the other side of the lab, they are making the mold. Here they are making the mold. See, this is a pattern. On the pattern, they are applying the parting sand. Now they are pouring the molding sand. They are applying ramming force. This is a furnace inside which they are melting the metal. He is making the passages for pouring out the molten metal. He is making the passages for pouring out the molten metal. So with this, the mold is ready. Now they will bring the molten metal from the furnace. They bring the molten metal from the furnace. See, they have brought the molten metal inside a ladle. They will pour it inside the mold. So with this, the casting process is over. Now they will let it solidify. They will let it solidify. See, after solidification, you can see. Now here you can see that along with the final casting that was needed, the extra passages that we have created, even those passages became a part of the casting later, right? Even those passages became the part of the casting. So we'll have to remove this portion by using machining processes. See, they are giving better surface finish, they are giving better finish to the component by using machining process. So with this, I have shown you how a casted component is made from the beginning to the end. Now you are ready to study the chapter of the casting. So now we'll start with the chapter of casting. This was the introduction. Okay. So first of all, one thing that I want to make clear is I will be teaching you with the combination of PPT and with the combination of some portion that I will be dictating. Okay. So few portions I want you to write in your notebook, and few portions that are relatively less important and that are relatively more theoretical, I will be asking you to take the screenshot. Okay. So let's start. First of all, what is casting? Casting is a process in which molten metal is poured into a cavity whose shape is same as that of the casting to be produced, and the component is obtained by breaking the mold. Advantages are cheap and easy to manufacture. Let's relate it with the ice making process. Is ice making cheap? Can you make ice easily? It is very cheap. You just need water and a refrigerator, right? Most of our homes, we have the refrigerator, right? So you can say even the casting process is cheap and easy to manufacture. Complicated shapes can be made. Whatever is the shape that you want to make, simply you will have to make a cavity of that shape. Okay. So complicated shapes can be made, and small to large castings can be produced. Small to large castings up to 200 tons can be easily produced. Okay, so these are the advantages of casting. Please copy this portion. Please copy this portion. Are you copying? The portions that you have to take directly from the PPT, that I'll tell you later. As of now, to start with the chapter, please copy this portion. Next is disadvantages of casting. When you look at the surface of the eyes, you will see that the surface is not perfect. There will be some holes. There can be some holes. The holes are generally left behind if some air is trapped. Similarly, the casting will not be perfect. The casting will have some defect. And similarly, when metals cool down, they shrink, right? When metals cool down, they shrink. So maintaining the exact size is also not possible. So two disadvantages that we can see is sand casted components have less dimensional accuracy and surface finish is not good. And the second is defects cannot be avoided. You cannot avoid defects in a casting. Okay, so later we'll have to do the inspection process before handing over the casting to the customer. Okay, so please copy these 2 points. Okay guys, so let's proceed. So I have explained you the casting process. In the casting process explanation, we saw few terms. So please note down these terms. What happens is, in GATE, along with GATE, we give some other exams. So in those exams, some direct definitions come, like what is the meaning of cope, what is the meaning of drag, all these definitions come. Okay, so please take a note of all this. Okay, so you can see a secondary screen. On your secondary screen, you can see a diagram. In this diagram, you can see that along with the cope and drag, we have one more portion. So sometimes we use 3 flasks. Okay, so the middle flask is called as the chick. You can see CHEEK. Okay, so please write down all these terminologies. What is a flask? A molding flask is one which holds the sand mold intact. It is made up of wood or for temporary application or metal for long-term use. Drag is the lower molding flask. Cope is the upper molding flask, and then chick is the intermediate molding flask used in 3-piece molding. A diagram is not needed. In that, I just wanted to show you the middle portion. Okay, no need to copy the diagram. So which one? Please copy these definitions. Next is pattern. Pattern we saw. Pattern was a small box that they were using for making the mold, and later they were replacing that box. So pattern is a replica of the final object to be made with some modifications. What are these modifications? That we'll see later. But pattern is a replica of the final object to be made with some modifications. Then we have the parting line. See, we used different flasks. We used cope, we used drag. So there will be a line between the cope and the drag. That line is called as the parting line. Okay, there is a dividing line between 2 molding flasks that make up the sand mold. Okay, please copy this. Pattern is the replica of the final object to be made with some modifications, and parting line is the dividing line between 2 molding flasks that makes up the sand mold. Next is the molding sand. The sand that they were putting inside the flask is called as a molding sand. The freshly prepared refractory material used for making the mold cavity. It is a mixture of silica, clay and moisture in appropriate proportions. This is the molding sand. Please copy this. What is the molding sand? Okay. And then we have the core. Core is used for making hollow cavities in the casting. What is core? This will cover later. As of now, just write the definition. Molding sand is the freshly prepared refractory materials used for making the mold cavity. It is a mixture of silica, clay and moisture in appropriate proportions. Then core is used for making hollow cavities inside the casting. Okay, then please copy this. There is something called as a facing sand. Facing sand is nothing but a carbon rich sand. This sand is generally sprinkled inside the mold cavity. It is sprinkled inside the mold cavity before pouring the molten metal. Okay, to get a better surface finish. See, if you want a good surface finish on the casted component, you should have good surface finish on the cavity, right? So to give good surface finish on the cavity, we sprinkle some carbon rich sand inside the cavity. Okay, this carbon rich sand is called as the facing sand. A carbon rich sand sprinkled inside the mold cavity before pouring molten metal. These are some popular definitions. These definitions you can expect directly in the exam. That's why I'm asking you to write all this. Okay, and then the white sand that we had seen, that was called as parting sand, right? Sand sprinkled over the pattern. Okay, so please copy these two definitions. Parting sand is a sand sprinkled over the pattern to avoid sticking of pattern with the molding sand. In the videos that we saw, parting sand was a white sand that was sprinkled in the beginning. Okay, so let us see what are the steps involved in the casting process. So what are the steps involved in the casting? I showed you the video. In the video you saw, for casting we are pouring the molten metal. But before pouring the molten metal, we need to make the mold. But before making the mold, we need to make the pattern, right? The first thing that was used was a pattern. So the first step in the casting is pattern making. First step in the casting is pattern making. Once the pattern is made, we'll be making the mold with the help of the pattern. So the second step is mold making. Once the mold is made, we'll be pouring the molten metal inside the mold and we'll allow it to solidify. So the third step is pouring and solidification. Pouring and solidification. Pouring and solidification. After pouring, the metal has solidified. Now you want to remove the solidified metal, that is the casting. Now you want to remove the casted component. So that is called as shakeout and fettling. Shakeout and fettling. See, once the casted component has solidified, we'll remove the casted component by breaking the mold. And as I showed you in the video, the portions that we used for the pouring, even those portions will get solidified. So we need to remove those portions by using the machining process. Okay, so removal of those portions by using machining process is called as fettling operation. Okay, the removal of extra projections by using machining process is called as fettling operation. Okay, and the fifth step, as I told you, that there are high chances of presence of defects inside the casting, so we cannot give the casting without inspection. So the fifth step is inspection. Okay, fifth step is inspection. So these are the different steps involved in the casting process. We'll see the casting step by step. So first step that we are going to see is pattern making. Let's start with pattern making. So what is a pattern? We all saw that pattern is a replica of the casting to be made. But here we are saying the term replica. What do you understand by the term replica? Okay, guys, it won't be exact copy. It will have slight deviations. Yeah, replica means exact copy, but this is the copy which is having slight deviations. Why these deviations are there? Similar shape but different size. Very good, Dinesh. We'll have similar shape but different size. Why? pattern is a replica of the casting to be made, but there will be some deviations from the final casting. What are these deviations? These deviations are called as pattern allowances. These deviations are called as pattern allowances. And the second one is core print. So what I am saying here is the pattern will not be exactly same as the final casting. It will have slight deviations. These slight deviations will be to accommodate the pattern allowances and will be to accommodate the core print. What are pattern allowances? What are core print? That I'll explain later. But as of now, copy this. Okay. For pattern allowances and for core print. Okay. So let us see what are the pattern allowances. What do you understand by pattern allowances? I told you that we don't get very good surface finish on the pattern. Right? We don't get very good surface finish on the pattern. Sorry, we don't get very good surface finish on the casted component. Right? Let's suppose this is the casted component. The surface finish of this casted component is not very good. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll remove outer layer of the casted component by using a machining process. By using the machining process, we can get slightly better surface finish. So we'll remove the outer portion of the casted component by using machining. So the outer portion is removed by machining. Okay. Initially, this was the size of the casted component that was made. Right. So every time for casting we'll try to make the casting slightly bigger. The reason is later we are going to remove the material by using machining. Right. When we are trying to make the casting slightly bigger, it means we need to pour more molten metal. It means we need to have cavity slightly bigger. It means we need to have pattern slightly bigger. So the amount by which the pattern is bigger than the final casting, is called as the allowances. Now, this allowance can be machining allowance, can be shrinkage allowance. It can be of different types. The one that I showed you here is called as a machining allowance. Okay. So let's see what are the different kinds of allowances. Please write down. We have shrinkage or contraction allowance. We have draft or taper allowance. We have machining or finish allowance. We have distortion or camber allowance. And the fifth one is wrapping allowance. Okay. So write down the pattern allowances. These are the 5 allowances. Please copy this. This is an important topic. So let's first start with the first allowance, which is shrinkage allowance. Right? First one is the shrinkage allowance. So whenever a metal is at higher temperature, and it cools down, it starts to shrink. Right? Whenever metal cools down from a higher temperature, it shrinks. So similarly, when you have poured the molten metal inside the mold and it is getting solidified, its temperature is reducing, so it will shrink. So for considering that, we take shrinkage allowance. Let us suppose you are pouring the molten metal at a temperature called as the PT. You are pouring the molten metal at a temperature called as the PT. PT is nothing but the pouring temperature. It is generally 150 to 200 degrees Celsius higher than the melting point. 150 to 200 degrees higher than the melting point. Okay, so this is the pouring temperature. So here what I am drawing is temperature time diagram. How is the temperature reducing with respect to the time? So after some time, this pouring temperature will come down to melting point temperature, right? This will come down to melting point temperature. And after some time, this melting point temperature, for some time this melting point temperature will be retained, right? For some time this melting point temperature will be retained. and after this melting point temperature will come down to the room temperature. This melting point temperature will come down to the room temperature. Here MP is melting point, RT is room temperature, RT is room temperature. So first doubt that the students have is, sir, why are we keeping the pouring temperature 150 to 200 degrees higher than the melting point? Why are not we exactly pouring the molten metal at melting point temperature? The reason is, when you are pouring the molten metal, the mold wall is at room temperature. The mold wall is at room temperature. So if you are keeping the molten metal exactly at the melting point temperature, when it comes in contact with the mold wall, it will lose heat and it will start solidifying. It will start solidifying even before the complete filling of the cavity. Hence, for complete filling of the cavity, we keep the temperature slightly higher than the melting point, so that the solidification starts after complete filling, right? So keeping this higher temperature will give us time for the pouring of the molten metal. That's why we use 150 to 200 degrees higher than the melting point. Then here, from pouring temperature to it came melting point temperature. Here again, from melting point to melting point, the temperature is constant for some time. Why is this? Have you studied this? This comes in thermodynamics. Why is the temperature constant here? What kind of heat is being removed? Very good. They are removing the latent heat. That's why the melting point is constant. Very good, guys. Latent heat means the hidden heat. So here you are removing the heat, but the temperature is constant. So it will appear as if the heat is not being removed. That's why it is called as the latent heat. Okay. And from melting point, it will come down to the room temperature. So overall, you can say that the cooling of molten metal is taking place in 3 stages. This is the first stage, this is the second stage, and this one is the third stage. The cooling of molten metal is taking place in 3 stages, 1, 2 and 3. Now please tell me the states. Here, at pouring temperature, what is the state of the molten metal? At pouring temperature, what is the state of the molten metal? Here, at the first melting point, what is the state of the molten metal? What is the state of the metal? Again, it is liquid only, right? So here again the state is liquid. In the second melting point, what is the state? In the second melting point, what is the state? Solid. Here it is solid. And obviously at the room temperature it will be solid. Obviously at the room temperature it will be solid. Okay. So overall you can say that the metal is reducing from liquid to liquid, then liquid to solid, then solid to solid. Okay. Now one of the definitions of temperature is on the basis of vibrations. Okay. The way of defining the temperature is by calculating the vibration of atoms. So what happens is, at higher temperature there is more vibration of atoms. There is more vibrations of atoms. So what happens is, at higher temperature there is more vibration. Because of this more vibration, the atoms will occupy the larger volume. They are occupying larger volume, right? So similarly, when the temperature is reducing, the vibrations will reduce, and the vibrations are reducing, so atoms will occupy smaller volume. So overall you can say, as the temperature is reducing, the volume is reducing. So as the temperature is reducing, the metal is shrinking. That is the reason behind the shrinkage of a metal when the temperature is reducing. Okay, so this is clear. So here you can see that in the first stage the metal is coming from the pouring temperature to melting point temperature. So it will be having some shrinkage. Second stage, the phase of the metal is changing from liquid phase to solid phase, right? Solid phase generally occupies lesser volume compared to liquid phase, right? The solid phase occupies lesser volume compared to the liquid phase. Therefore, again, here will be some shrinkage, and here you can see from melting point solid, it is coming to room temperature. So here again some reduction in temperature is taking place, So here again there will be some shrinkage taking place. Here again there will be some shrinkage taking place. Okay. So please copy this. All metals shrink because of their interatomic vibrations which are amplified by an increase in temperature. All metals shrink. Please copy this. All metals shrink because of the interatomic vibrations which are amplified by an increase in the temperature. This is written on the secondary screen. Sir, in two region, why there is only liquid, not liquid plus solid? Okay. Saurav, I am not talking about the region. I am not talking about the region. I am just talking about the endpoints. Okay. Here at this endpoint there is liquid. Here at this endpoint there is solid. Obviously in between we will have solid plus liquid, but I am talking just about the endpoints. At the beginning we will have the liquid. At the end we will have the solid. Okay. Okay. So you can see here that at the beginning of the first stage, the metal is in liquid state. At the end of the first stage, the metal is at liquid stage. That is, all the shrinkage is taking place at the liquid phase only. All the shrinkage is taking place at the liquid phase only, and this shrinkage is called as the liquid shrinkage. This shrinkage is called as the liquid shrinkage. It is. Now let's see the second stage. Kiran will talk about that. Please wait. In the second stage, what happens is, in the beginning it is in liquid, and at the end it is in solid. In the beginning it is in liquid, and at the end it is in solid. Okay. Hence, this region is called as the phase change region or the solidification region. This region is called as the phase change region or the solidification region. So, whatever the shrinkage is taking place in this stage is called as phase change shrinkage or solidification shrinkage. Phase change shrinkage or solidification shrinkage. And in the third stage, you can see at the beginning of the third stage, the metal is solid, and at the end of the third stage, it is solid only. So whatever shrinkage is taking place, it is taking place in the solid phase. So therefore, this is called as solid shrinkage. This one is called as solid shrinkage. Some metals expand. Yes, Talsania, some metals expand. For example, we have grey cast iron. At the time of the second stage, that is the phase change, the grey cast iron expands. The grey cast iron expands. But majority of the metals, they shrink. Majority of the metals, they shrink. Grey cast iron expands during the second stage because some graphite particles are formed in the grey cast iron, and these graphite particles are having larger volume. They are having larger volume. That's why when they are formed, the metal expands. Okay. Okay. So let us see how do we compensate this. How do we compensate this? In first stage, liquid shrinkage has taken place. You poured some more volume of the molten metal. Now you see that the volume has shrunk now, but it is still in liquid phase. It is still in liquid phase. So what will you do? What will you do? You poured some molten metal. Now you are saying after some time that the amount of molten metal is slightly less, but it is still in the form of molten metal. What will you do? You will pour more molten metal. Very good, Nitika. You will pour more molten metal. Okay. Similarly, in second stage we have both solid and liquid. In second stage we have both solid and liquid. So in second stage also, if some shrinkage has taken place, in second phase also, if some shrinkage has taken place, so what will you do? You will supply more molten metal. You will supply more molten metal. So whatever shrinkage has taken place in the first and second stage, this two shrinkage will be compensated by supplying extra molten metal. This extra molten metal is supplied by something called as riser. In the video I showed you two holes were made. One hole was used for pouring the molten metal, and the other hole was called as riser. The purpose of the riser is to store molten metal, and this molten metal gets fed as the metal is shrinking. Okay, so the first and second stage shrinkage are compensated the first and second stage shrinkage are compensated by supplying extra molten metal. The extra molten metal that we are supplying, it is stored inside something called as the riser. The riser. Okay. First and second stage shrinkage are compensated by supplying extra molten metal, which is stored inside the riser. Okay. So if someone asks you how do we compensate the shrinkage taking place in first and second stage, we compensate this by using risers. Okay. So what happens in the third stage? What happens in the third stage? See, in the third stage, the phase of the molten metal is solid. The phase of the metal is solid, right? We can't call that molten metal. In the third stage, the phase of the metal is solid. So this time, whatever shrinkage is taking place, if you want to compensate that shrinkage, you supply extra molten metal. What will happen is, let's say there is a portion that has already solidified, okay, but it is slightly smaller than what you want. So what you are trying to do here is, you are supplying more molten metal. Here we had the cavity, so you are supplying more molten metal, but this won't work. Why this won't work is because now this molten metal will try to solidify over already solidified portion. It will try to solidify over already solidified portion, so there will be some troubles in forming the bond. The bonds won't be formed properly. There will be some gaps and all, right? So for compensating the shrinkage that is taking place in the third stage, we cannot supply extra molten metal. For this, what we do is, we make the cavity slightly bigger. We make the cavity slightly bigger, and for making the cavity slightly bigger, we make the pattern slightly bigger. We make the pattern slightly bigger. The amount by which we are making the pattern slightly bigger is called as the shrinkage allowance. Okay, the amount by which we are making the pattern slightly bigger is called as the shrinkage allowance.